Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
And here with us is an old face that we haven't seen, since we began this podcast.
Since before the COVID.
Since the COVID happened, is none other than William Fletcher.
Hi, guys.
Who has been the no-show for a while, but we were trying to wait for a while until we find a movie that we can both agree on to actually review together. And he's already sat down and did his own review on it on his own channel,
Yes,
didn't you?
I did.
What's your channel called? So for people can...
My channel's called Fletch40, and it's basically just a channel where I put whatever I want on it, but it's mostly just reviews
Oh, cool.
and vlogs of me going places and just updates on my life, things like that.
Well, there you go then.
Yes.
So it's worth a look, I gather?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Well, there you go then.
Yes, so tonight we decided to review for you guys the latest movie that came out.
Something very, very new.
Very, very, very new, called Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, which was released this year. And I kind of think it's a pretty awesome movie, and I like the fact that Tim Burton came back on board for this one. So, Will, you're new to this this movie, so what do you think of it?
I actually really enjoyed it. At first, I went into the movie with pretty low expectations. I wasn't expecting it to be great, but I was actually pleasantly surprised of just how entertaining this was and just how passionate Michael Keaton was being Beetlejuice again. You could definitely see in the movie that he definitely enjoyed...
The juice is back.
Yeah, being in this role again. It's definitely...
He likes the camp, doesn't he?
Yeah,
He's really good.
Can't be more.
It's definitely a very, very long time since we've seen Michael Keaton in a comedic role like Beetlejuice. The last time I remember him being in anything was in Spider-Man Homecoming as the villain, and in The Founder, Ray Kroc, who was also a villain.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
a real-life villain.
Yeah, well, bugger.
Who caused McDonald's to become successful, but of course he ripped it away from its original owners.
Well, he did.
Well, they were...
He's just a very good businessman. They were terrible businessmen, and they paid him.
Yeah.
He got several $1 million back in those days.
Yeah.
And on a business they weren't pushing.
I guess so, yeah.
So he offered them.
I guess so.
Yes.
But they didn't.
Yeah,
Anyway.
originally this idea of Tim Burton to make a sequel to this movie, he wanted to go back to something he originally wanted in his productions. They've been going more and more CGI, more and more, bigger and better stuff. And I guess he wanted to return to something that was much more something that he was passionate about. Like, it was not one of his first movies, but I know that Pee-wee's Big Adventure was his first debut film.
That was fun.
And so this movie was technically what put him on the map. Even though we much later on we had also Batman.
Batman was good.
They also gave him a very big boost in the industry.
Now, can I go through my normal bits before you talk all over me?
Sure.
Okay, right, here we go. Right. I love this bit. Produced by Mark Toberoff, Deed Gardner, Jeremy Kleiner, Tommy Harper, and Tim Burton. Directed by Tim Burton. Story by Alfred Goth, Miles Miller, Seth Graham-Smith. Screenplay by Alfred Goth and Miles Miller. There you go. Now, the actors. Gee, we did mention Michael Keaton, didn't we?
Several times.
A couple of times, yeah. He came back and reprised his role as that wonderful, lovable character, the ghost with the most, or whatever. So he plays Beetlejuice, obviously. Winona Ryder, she comes back as Lydia Deetz. Catherine O'Hara, who played her mum in the first movie, is still in this one as her mum. She's getting a bit old now, obviously. Jenna Ortega comes in as Astrid Deetz, which is Lydia's teenage daughter.
Right.
I won't go on to too many other people here because there's Willem Dafoe. He's in here as a ghost detective. It's quite humorous.
Ooh.
I won't go about all the other people. There's quite a few people involved in this one. Danny DeVito does a cameo in it as
a brief one.
A janitor in Hell.
Yeah.
That was surprising.
And quite. I thought it was him, heavily made up, but he's still looking good.
I would have loved it if he stuck around. Considering he's in the afterlife, you'd think there's no way he'll be dead.
When
or
I
killer.
first saw that scene, I was like, who is this? I know this guy.
Yeah.
Wait, is that Danny DeVito? Yes, it is Danny DeVito.
Now,
Yeah.
here's a bit I like. Money. Now, budget was about 100 mil, and you can see where the money's been spent. But
Yes.
now, today's date is what, the 13th of September. Now, this only hit the box office a little over a week ago. All right.
Right.
It's already made 162 mil.
Wow. Definitely. a
Now
success.
it's gonna be just going up and up and up because people like the juice, they like the fun, they like the comedy, etc.
They like the old-fashioned
and they
CGI
like
stuff, too.
Keaton, obviously. He does a really good role.
So you have high hopes this is going to be one of 2024's most successful movies.
Oh, gut feeling.
Yeah. I also think
yeah.
the whole. I like the sets and the costumes and I like the return look style that was in the Beetlejuice
And
movie.
it's got the same sort of feel to it, so they haven't lost it.
Yeah, which is a bit
That's
of relief.
probably having Tim Burton involved again and probably helped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it usually helped. I mean, and also, of course, three characters couldn't return because of mostly to do with the fact that it doesn't make sense because when you think about it, it doesn't make sense at all. Alec Baldwin couldn't return because he's aged quite a great deal in the last past
And
couple
ghosts
of
don't
years.
age.
And ghosts don't age in the
Not
afterlife.
normally.
And Jeff Jones, who played
Jeffrey Jones, he couldn't appear for some legal reasons. Just
Yeah.
leave it at
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
All right.
and he cannot go on to continue acting because of that.
I didn't. Okay. Whatever you guys know about, I know nothing about this, but he didn't.
We'll talk to you off the air later on. Yes. Now, I'm going to stop talking. Now, you want to take over and chat with Sarah.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
So I won't talk all over you. I tend to sort of rabble on and jump in all the time. You guys talk, and then Sarah can get into telling a little bit of the storyline and whatever.
So, what do you want to add? Do you have anything to add, Will, before I get into the story?
I wanted to add just how creative I thought the set design was in this movie.
It was, wasn't it?
It was very similar to the first movie, obviously.
Very.
But like, when I was seeing these sets, I was thinking of the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Like, just how like slanted and how like crooked and off kilter these sets look.
Have you seen the original one of that, the old silent version?
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael, he actually sent me the DVD for that.
That's
way
right, yeah,
back
dude.
in 2020.
That's right. I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I often think
Love it.
probably Tim Burton probably used the old sets, or not really. He didn't use the real old sets. They were too old, and they were probably worn down. But he probably took inspiration from those old silent movies and created his own world in his own head and in his movie, obviously. And I like the fact when he often, in every single movie, he has a mixture of black and black and white, where he, to be technical, he often knows how to display the both light side to life and the dark sides to life, where the dark, interesting characters that have a very bizarre nature are usually the friendly types of people that you want to hang out with, but while the people who have the light nature come off as dark on the inside.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, kind of, I guess that's Tim Burton's depiction about life, how he depicts it, how he was always the strange boy at school, and he
Yeah.
saw the world around him that was light and bubbly. I even read that somewhere that Tim Burton didn't get along with his parents. Like, he was the
see.
polar opposite to everything they were, obviously.
Yeah. It can be hard when you feel like you're like the alien in the room,
yeah.
And I think Tim Burton's art definitely expresses that a lot.
It was different.
Yes. So, anyway, I'll dive into the story aspect, where the story takes place, say, 30 years later?
It wouldn't be 30 years.
Okay, not 30 years later.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out. Lydia would have been a high school student in the first movie. Then
Yes.
a couple of years later, she had got married and had a baby. Let's say 5 years later, and then she got a daughter about 15, maybe 20 years later.
Okay, 20 years
I was
later.
just guessing that the dates the movie came out was the dates of the story. So the first one was 1988 and the second one was 2024. But
Yeah, so 20 years later,
Yeah.
Lydia is a ghost adventure type person, like a ghostbuster, or not really a ghostbuster, just a person who interviews people who are dealing with spirits and ghosts and hauntings. And she continues to see gets haunted by Beetlejuice, wherever she goes. And she's still, I think, she carries this trauma with her. And of course, Rowley, her agent or her, well, I'm not sure if he's an agent or a producer who works with her to make the show. And he's more obsessed with the show than about her own, trauma.
It's about the money.
It's all about the money to him.
Oh, by the way, I just checked in my notes. It is about 36 years later.
Okay, 36 years later.
You were right. I was wrong.
Yeah, and she's estranged from her daughter, from what I understand, Astra, who is also she's at boarding school in the opening of in the trailer. If you've seen the trailer, you'll see that she's in boarding school, has a hell of a time with the students next, living with her, all that stuff. Anyway, so she's used to the fact that her mother sees ghosts, but she doesn't believe in ghosts herself. And who can blame her? Also, we get the news from Deetz, Lydia's stepmom, that Charles Deetz died. He was going on a bird watching expedition, and somehow got into a plane crash, and he got eaten by a shark.
Yeah, there was actually a pretty good looking stop motion sequence.
Oh yeah, that was
the plane
pretty cool.
crash looked very Burton.
Oh yeah,
and it's like the thing was that he survived the plane crash only to be eaten by a shark in the ocean. Yeah,
I thought it was hilarious, that part,
Yeah.
especially when I saw the stop motion bits. I thought, whoa, this is taking a different approach. This is definitely Tim Burton's style we're looking at.
Yeah.
Instead of the usual, we'll tell it in sync. We won't see Charles's face because he's not in this movie, because he's not, obviously.
Well, he was, wasn't he?
Yes.
We didn't know it was initially.
Yes. So they used
anyway. Yeah.
So they use stop motion animation to tell the story, that part of the story, obviously.
Yeah.
Which is kind of great.
Very rare to see that nowadays. And it was practical stop motion, right? It wasn't CGI.
Yeah. Dear old Tim, him and his crew, they always use stop motion stuff.
Yeah.
He did it with Nightmare Before Christmas, with Frankenweenie, and Corpse Bride, from what I understand. And I think that other animation, what's it called? Carolyn,
yeah.
I think that was one of his.
What's that one?
No, that was by Leica. That was that wasn't a Tim Burton movie.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was a Tim Burton movie. Sorry, my bad. Sorry, folks.
We'll take that out.
We'll take that back. Anyway, so they decide to have they go back to the old town they lived in, which is where the old house they used to live, probably still live in, obviously.
Yeah, Winter Rivers or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have the funeral there, and Rowley, Lydia's producer, decides to propose and announce their engagement to the mourners at the funeral, which I think is the worst time.
Timing's not very good, eh?
The timing is worse. And in fact, he suggests they should get married on her favorite holiday, Halloween. Which is 2 days away when you think about it. While this is happening in the Netherworld, I'm going to call it, because that's what they call it in the book. That's what they call it in the animations a lot.
Well, there you go then.
And anyway, Beetlejuice is sort of running his own business, or continues his exorcist thingy-wing with little or no success. And his ex-wife is out to take her, revenge on him for dumping her.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that.
Yeah, after killing her, obviously. And of course, she comes back together, gets a dress from a...
It literally comes back together. Wasn't she in pieces? And
she was stapling herself together.
Yeah, staple gun or something. Oh, nice.
Yeah,
really
the
good.
look is pretty cool. And if I ever did do...
Hey, very attractive lady, though.
She is.
Something Malucci. Yeah.
That must be painful.
Oh, staples, yeah.
Yes, it would. But I imagine they use silicone. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, she kills the janitor, and then the police come in, the Netherworld police come in, and they investigate. And of course, the guy who's playing a detective comes
That's Willem
in.
Dafoe.
Yeah, who is pretty much an ex-actor from the
Who
real
used
world.
to play detectives and spies and stuff. He thought he might do it down there.
No, yeah. So he continues his weird occupation of being weird. Anyway, the weirdness continues when Astra, Lydia's daughter, Astrid, starts hanging out with this guy in the neighborhood, and she discovers that he's also a ghost, and he wants her to come to the Neverworld to help him come back to life.
Nice. So they can be friends.
Of course, when Lydia finds out from the real estate agent, which is the daughter to the first real estate agent, I think, in my mind, who is also looking at selling Lydia's old family home, obviously. And of course, she's all for it because she thinks that it's the only way for her to get rid of the remaining Beetlejuice vibes. Because her boyfriend ended up calling Beetlejuice, calling him 3 times and causing some trouble. But luckily enough, they got out of there. And Lydia thinks they're in a dangerous area and should get out of there. Of course, this doesn't go so well when she finds out that her daughter gets lured by this strange ghost boy to the Neverworld, and she finds out from the real estate lady that he killed his parents, and he accidentally killed himself when the police were trying to apprehend him at his treehouse.
So yeah, he's kind of a monster.
Yes, meaning he plans on taking taking Astrid to the Neverworld to exchange her soul for his.
So he can come back as a living creature, and he stays in the other place.
Yeah, he gets sent to the place with all the fire.
Oh,
Ooh.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
The barbecue. Yeah.
Anyway, so she watches them enter the door, the special door where you draw it in on the wall, knock 3 times.
Remember the old chalk door? Yeah, still there.
Yeah, and they enter, and of course Lydia misses them in time, so she goes back to the house, calls on Beetlejuice, and asks for his help to locate her daughter and stuff. And they have to do it very quickly because she's still going to get married at this point. And meanwhile, this is happening. Deetz is in the graveyard with her dead husband, and she's going to use some not poisonous snakes, or so she thinks they're poisonous.
She had some asps, were they? And they're supposed to be defanged, so they couldn't hurt her.
But
someone didn't actually defang them properly, did they? Yeah.
Nope. And technically, she gets poisoned, and she dies. And then later on, we see her at the waiting room to the dead, obviously, and she's trying to plead with the receptionist to let her go because she doesn't belong there. Of course, everyone says that when they enter the Neverworld.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, she later on, when Lydia does locate her daughter, we also locate her ex-husband, who also disappeared in the Amazon, who died of unknown, obviously. But we find out he was killed by some piranhas, probably, considering all the fish that's been attached to his face, jiggling around.
Yeah.
You go for, I think of piranhas maybe, because piranhas are like tiny little fish, and what happens is when you fall into a river or something, there's so many of them, each of them take a mouthful.
Yes.
So
anyway,
it's not just one eating a lot.
Yeah, luckily enough, Lydia and her ex-husband, they assist Astra and get away. And of course, they have a final farewell moment where he says that they should try to stay together and try to learn to love one another again, because they always liked each other. And Astra misses her long dead father because she doesn't like Rory, who's trying to hone in on her mother and all that stuff, and thinks he's a terrible person. Of course, they quickly find a way of getting out of the Neverworld eventually through a mausoleum, isn't that right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And of course, he has to stay behind because he belongs there, considering he is dead, after all. Anyway, meanwhile, Lydia gets to as they're getting out of the mausoleum, they quickly make their way to the church that's located next to the mausoleum, and so she can marry Rory. I don't know why she continues wanting to marry him, considering he is not really a nice person, and is unlike her ex-husband, who is really nice. Anyway, so they arrive at the church, but as they're about to tie the knot, Beetlejuice appears, and he brings along with Denise, obviously, and he plans on marrying Lydia himself, obviously. That's the deal. So in exchange for Lydia for finding her daughter and helping her, she has to marry him. Sort of the bargaining chip, obviously, he wants. Yeah. Anyway, so because he also wants to escape his ex, obviously, because he knows about her roaming around, and he ends up trying to get his associate Bob to disguise like himself, like his old self from the first movie, but he ends up dying, getting sucked, getting his life sucked.
Rest in peace, Bob. He was gone way too soon.
Oh, Bob.
I don't.
He didn't have many words to say in the movie.
Of course not. His lips are
Remember that you're trying to make him talk, and his lips have been sewn together so he couldn't talk.
Yeah.
He's saying, "Tell me about it."
Yeah. Well, he is
He's shrunken head.
Well, yeah, a shrunken head would often have their mouths sewed shut.
They
don't know why.
They keep the sawdust in. I told you the other night. No, that's what they do. They get a head and they take it off the skull. They fill it full of sawdust and stuff and heat it up and everything. And actually shrinks the skin tissue down, and the solid part inside is actually sawdust.
Anyway, soon enough.
I know about making shrunken heads.
So
I'm well read.
Yeah, we also get a dance sequence when after Beetlejuice up and somehow sends both his ex and Lydia's ex to hell, obviously, or because it was very hilarious, especially when he kind of gives Rory a truth serum, and Rory reveals that he has been using Lydia for financial reasons, and in the end Lydia gives him a punch in the face, and both him and his Beetlejuice's ex get eaten by a sandworm.
Yes, that's right. And I really do like the design of the sandworm in this movie.
Yeah, it's great as a reoccurring creature. I mean, it's probably the most interesting things about Beetlejuice the most, because it does give you an explanation of why people who are dead cannot, they get trapped inside their house and they cannot leave it, obviously. And like, of course, when I hear sandworm now, like, I'm very well versed in like the Dune movie, so I think of the sandworm from Dune. But this is a very different looking sandworm. It's kind of more like a sock puppet. Yeah. Anyway, in the original, I think it was a different. They had a different idea of why they should stay in the Neverworld, inside the house. In the original version, there was mostly these weird disc things flying in the sky, which doesn't make sense. But I think having a sandworm is a lot more creative and a lot more terrifying for a younger audience, obviously. I mean, I showed it to my niece and nephew the other day before I watched the new Beetlejuice movie. I kind of watched the original with my niece and nephew. They were so keen about watching something horrific, but they didn't know what horror really means.
Hellraiser be really good, hey?
I'd just be glad that they didn't watch Hellraiser with me, or the Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. Night of the Living Dead would be nice.
I never found Beetlejuice to be like actually a scary movie. It's just more like a horror comedy about the afterlife.
Yeah, true. But to a young kid audience, they don't know the meaning
They
of the
think
word
scary.
horror.
Well, actually, here's a good analogy. When Sarah was younger, a lot younger, her sister Julie had a friend over for a sleepover, and they wanted to watch a scary film. Her friend said, I like scary things.
Yes.
So she put on an old Vincent Price movie. I think it was The Mad Magician.
I think it was The Blob. I think.
No, it could have been The Blob, yeah. There's a couple of things she was watching back in those days. And her friend started crying. She wanted to go home. Whoops.
Yeah, in the end.
Her idea of scary was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Or go hello.
Yeah, then
That's not
they
very
watched
scary at all.
In the end, they watched Mr. Bean instead.
Yeah. I don't know, but so it's quite funny. Kids have got an idea of being scared and they don't really know the meaning of it.
I remember District 9 being really scary.
District 9, I don't know that one.
But it's not a horror movie, but there's quite a lot of evil in that movie.
Oh, okay, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Anyway, back to the story. The Neverworld police try to up a hand in Beetlejuice as he's about to tie the knot with Lydia. But luckily enough, thanks to Astra, she works out that through the book, the handbooker recently deceased comes into this, obviously, and works out that with Lydia being at the Neverworld, the contract between her and Beetlejuice about getting married is null and void, obviously, or something.
Null and void, because it's a breach.
Yeah, so...
Lucky, hey.
So he ends up being zapped back to where he belongs, obviously, after saying Beetlejuice 3 times, obviously. Then Lydia decides that this will be her last show as a ghost adventure type thing, and she plans on spending some quality time with her daughter. Of course, we get a bit of a jump ahead where she gets married, and Astra gets married, and has a baby. And of course, the baby turns out to be a Beetlejuice baby. And then,
a creepy little baby.
And then we realize this is all a nightmare that Lydia has, and it was a bit of a surprise. Twice nightmare where she wakes and sees Beetlejuice next to her, and then she wakes again and realizes that she's
dream
still
within a dream sort of thing.
Realizing that she's still trapped and traumatized by Beetlejuice, and that's when the movie ends. And I keep thinking, it seems like the movie is leading into a third movie, in my opinion. Even though
you'd like to think so.
I like to think
so. And not 36 years later.
No.
I like to think there might be a third
maybe 3 years
installment,
later.
But maybe, according to Tim Burton, he's not sure about making another movie. I'm not sure. It feels like it's giving us a bit of a cliffhanger ending, keeping us
They have an option, though. How's that?
Yes.
They say, well, if it goes really, really good at the box office, we might really, really, really do another one.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so that's...
And it is.
So that's the
Looking good so
movie
far.
and everything.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the movie that I've just talked about?
Really, really enjoyed this one. I thought it was just, the perfect blend of horror and comedy. I also loved how the Soul Train scene was actually like a 70s disco rave.
Soul music,
Yeah,
Soul Train, yeah. I got that.
Like a train station. I really thought that was a nice touch. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I would give it an 8, actually, an 8 out of 10.
Ooh,
Yeah, I do like the prosthetics, the makeup stuff, and especially the gore that you get to see in this, obviously. It really helps the movie along, obviously. And I like the fact we get to see much more of the Neverworld in this movie, unlike in the other one, which
it's more in the real world.
Which we consist of. In the original, consists of a few, inside office buildings, stuff like that. You don't see what other stuff outside of that. Of course, we have a cartoon that came out 1 year, much later after the movie concluded, but that was its own separate way of telling the story.
I've only seen the original Beetlejuice once, but I did have a bit of a complaint about the first movie, that I thought it took way too long for Beetlejuice to show up. And the reason why I was so, enjoyed this movie so much, because there was a lot more focus of Beetlejuice in it this time. So,
I suppose that's true,
Yeah, but it's like any horror or horror comedy worth talking about, where you don't get introduced to the villain or the anti-villain hero person at the very, very beginning. You just get snippets, like in the first movie, you get teeny hints that there's something sinister.
Right. You look at Psycho, you made a comment about it took a while for Beetlejuice to show up in the first movie. If you look at Psycho, Norman Bates' alter ego didn't show up in at least 20 minutes into Psycho.
That's true.
Yeah, but like Beetlejuice, the movie, like the poster has Beetlejuice right front and center, so you're
True.
It's like watching like Shrek, and Shrek's only in it for like 15 minutes.
But it's like any movie that opens with a new villain and horror movie. You don't meet them unless it's the first movie that starts it all off. You don't meet the villain until you actually start meeting the people that you're going to be hanging out, like that might be the people will be the heroes that will face the evil demon and try to vanquish it, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
And it wouldn't be a movie if it reveals it right away. Like, most people often think, I'll reveal his identity right away, and that's our character we'll be following around for the next couple of movies from now on. It feels like, that bit of a disappointment, or not really not disappointment, but a bit of, it's a surprise, but but then you get the impression, okay, you just told me the identity of this person that we're going to be seeing, but that means that's the movie. Yeah, and that's the end. Why would I want to continue watching a movie about a bunch of people living inside a house and getting haunted by this creature?
You are a deep thinker, aren't you?
Well, it's just that most movies, like horror movies, they don't reveal, the first horror movie doesn't reveal the identity of the killer right away. You just leave it for a little while, like halfway, and then give the audience that bit of Beetlejuice vibes to get them wanting to watch more of it, obviously.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I think it works in the first movie because then you get snippets of who this person is, and then when you much later on, when you see more, you get the full package by the second or third act, obviously.
Yeah.
And then and then our heroes start wondering, should we associate ourselves with him? I don't think so. Then they regret the decision of bringing Beetlejuice into this world, of course. And then soon enough, they have to plan the way to vanquish him, if that's the term.
Yeah.
Anyway, I always thought both movies were great.
I was going to say that we'll rate this at, what, 8.5, what was it? 8.5? 8. What do you rate that?
I'm going to rate it 9.5 out of 10
Wow,
myself.
that is very high.
I like the sets. I love the costumes. I like the fact that we get the reappearing actors like Winona, and we get the new actor like Jenna Ortega.
I like her. She is. What's the word I'm looking
She's
for?
cool.
I saw her in Babysitter 2 when we saw her in X.
We've seen her in Wednesday Addams, the TV series.
That
was another Tim Burton.
Yeah.
And
thing.
she just plays these slightly off-centre roles quite nicely. Mm-hmm. And I like to see where she's going to go next.
Yeah, she's a very good actor.
Yeah, I think I've told William, a while ago that she was offered to play in a sort of gender twist or swap, Pirates of the Caribbean type thing, but I think she turned it down.
Okay.
Because for some reasons, obviously.
Well, you don't want to do everything. If they get a script they like, then they're going to put more energy into it too. But if she sees the script that's pretty boring and doesn't grab her, she's not going to do it, is she?
Yeah, but trying to find out more about why she turned them down and a little bit more. But there isn't very much, and it's mostly fans other film critiquers who have talked about it online, and I don't know who to trust on this sort of thing. That's the thing. You don't know if this information is coming directly from real news or fake news. So it's a little hard because more and more you watch online, you don't know if it's true or not sometimes.
Yeah. Who knows?
Anyway, it's a priceless movie worth watching, guys. And I definitely think it's always good to watch both movies so you know what it's all about. If you're a stranger to Beetlejuice and...
If you haven't seen Beetlejuice before, to me, I would actually go and watch the first movie, hire it, stream it, whatever, get a copy of it and have a look at it. And then this second movie, even though it's a good standalone movie, would make a bit more sense.
I actually think I should watch the first Beetlejuice movie again, get a second opinion of it, because I did really enjoy it. That was just my one gripe that I have with it.
I mean, it's pretty cool, especially how I do like the how he would use stop motion in some of his movies. I like when he in the original where he made those Delia's statues come to life and do silly things.
Yeah, well, why not?
I thought
if you can,
cool.
why not? Just do it.
I liked it with the shrimp. That was hilarious. Even though that was mostly hand.
Lobster, whatever. Yeah.
Shrimp,
whatever it was. The thing grab them, pull their heads down into the plates and whatever. Yeah. I think it was lobsters.
I think it was shrimp. To be honest,
Shrimp is a prawn. They're this big.
Yeah.
A lobster's this big.
It didn't look like a lobster, and even
You haven't had a lobster.
even
So a prawn is bigger than a shrimp.
Prawn's this big. Shrimp's a prawn.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And they had something else on the plate, which is a lobster.
Yeah.
well, it actually was a tail, but that's just you saying.
A quail.
Yeah. Anyway,
Lobster tail, whatever.
it matters not because it was most.
Look at a hand to
it
me.
didn't look realistic to me. It just looked like a hand, like Mike said.
It was made to grab the face. Yeah, it morphed. How's
I
that?
loved it.
Oh, like the animorphs.
Anyway, it's worth a watch, guys. I mean, watch both of them is the best
Yeah,
way to go.
I would, if you haven't seen the other one or haven't seen it for a long time, watch the other one, the original one first, and then go and see this one. It's
Yeah.
only new, you won't miss it.
Yeah, I do wonder, will they make a third movie? I'm hoping
I've
they
got a
will
gut
be.
feeling if this makes a monster at the box office, and they can figure out a good storyline to continue with, I think we'll be seeing Beetlejuice
Yeah.
in the next year or two.
Yeah, it will.
And yeah, the tagline will be saying, "Don't say the word."
Beetlejuice,
Yeah,
Beetlejuice,
no, yeah.
dot or something or other.
Yeah, like just telling you.
Don't say
s-
it. No, not
Yeah.
the juice word. No.
Yeah, maybe they might plaster a sticker over it and saying, "Don't say his name.
Don't
Yeah,
say.
like Ghostbusters silent and things like don't say it.
Yeah, don't say the B word.
Don't say the B."
Don't say the B word. No.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think of the guy at the theatre? Yeah, the dressed up as Beetlejuice.
yeah.
Oh,
We
yeah.
gotta talk about this. Yeah.
Oh yeah, when we were at the previewing it, guys, we actually saw a performer, a cosplayer, dressed as Beetlejuice.
And he wasn't Michael Keaton, but
Oh.
he really had a great time entertaining the audience, and they really enjoyed what he was doing.
It was definitely a plus to the cinema experience. It's
it
something.
was great. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was cool, and I like the fact we got to see so many cosplayers dressed as either Beetlejuice or Lydia Deetz. Both her black dress
the patrons, yeah.
and in her famous. There was even one woman there that dressed in Lydia Deetz's famous red wedding gown.
Yeah.
We also get to see the wedding gown but a little different style, obviously. Considering she's no longer the young Lydia Deetz from the first movie.
She still looks good
still
to me.
looks great.
Oh, Winona. Got a couple of wrinkles, but she's still good.
Yeah, so she's quite aged, but that's okay.
She's aged well.
She's aged well, so there's nothing wrong with it. She's an okay woman in my book, and I like the fact the gothic clothing that she wears throughout. She tends to be a gothic.
It's interesting.
In this one.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's also gothic in the original one, but didn't go over the top gothic. Yeah, but in the second movie, it's definitely gothic. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, dressed wearing head to toe in black, and the spiky,
Yeah, the punky sort of
punky type
steampunk hairstyle or something, or
I would
whatever
have
you want to
thought
call
that.
it. Yeah.
I thought Lydia's daughter would go that way too, but nah, didn't
But
seem
she
likely.
was defiant. She was against the mother. She thought you're spending too much time talking to the dead instead of talking to me. Remember she made a comment?
I remember.
Yeah.
She didn't even believe in the ghosts until we realised that maybe she also had the ability to see ghosts herself too.
I see dead people.
It was implied when she met that boy.
That was a scary movie, The Sixth
It
Sense.
certainly was.
Yeah.
So what was that called?
Sixth Sense.
Sixth Sense, Fifth Sense?
And then,
With Bruce Wilson.
and then
yeah.
M. Night Shyamalan's career got scary.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yes, interesting.
Anyway, so guys, that's our thoughts on this movie. So, is there anyone else got any more thoughts about this movie before we, finish up?
Well, I can't say, you can get it at eBay. It's too early.
Nah, it's too early.
So I can't do the eBay and Amazon bit. So no, but when it comes out, I'm sure it'll be on eBay and Amazon. You'll be able to rent it and buy it, whatever.
Yeah.
It'll be on other streaming services, I'm sure.
And I'm sure you might get
yeah.
the two in one of those package deal.
Well,
Maybe
you
possible.
might get a double header. You get Beetlejuice 1 and Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, and in the same pack. I reckon that'd be good marketing thing, wouldn't it?
It would be.
And make some extra money for them. Get a bit,
Yeah. To me, and Tim Burton, this movie, I think it was a passion project that dear old that Tim Burton wanted to work on. He wanted to go back to something that take him away from the usual mainstream stuff, like the other stuff he's been working on with CGI, and wanted to go back to something that's temporary or contemporary type approach.
whatever. Come back to
Go back to
his roots. Is something
Go back
like
to his
doing.
original roots.
I mean, there's nothing. You keep knocking CGI and AI and everything. There's nothing wrong with it as long as it doesn't take over the filmmaking process. As long as it's used as a tool. Now, if I was going to do a movie right now and want to put a demon or a monster in it, the easiest way to do it is AI. Instead of trying to fabricate one and get the robotics done or get somebody in a bodysuit and try to make it look realistic, you just program the computer and make it look real.
I should mention,
that's
guys,
a tool.
that they did came up with a very good reason for Adam and Barbara not being a no-show in this one, where they said that they found a loophole in
their
life.
Not the contract, but the loophole in their thingy, their haunting, so they were able to move on
To the afterlife in a nice, peaceful way, obviously. It does make it a little bit more sense when you think about it, you know.
There you go then. See, that went on to a better place.
Yes.
Anyway, do you want to kill it now?
Oh, yes.
Before we bore the people?
Right. So, that's about it from us, guys. So, this is Sarah Stephenson.
William Fletcher.
And Michael.
Saying, see you guys around, boys and Ghouls Film Review. Bye for now, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.